For starters, my husband has parental issues. He was abandoned by his biological parents and put into foster care as a toddler. He's never had a stable home, as he was bounced around different families until he turned 14, then spent 4 years in a group home. When we met, my family took to him very fast, and he and my mother, 54, specifically developed a close relationship. For Mother's Day last year, he gave my mom a card and wrote a message before thanking her for treating him like a son. He said she was the mom he had always dreamt about having. It was sweet. I never minded him treating her as if she was his mother. However, my mom is very extra. She wants to be involved in our lives a bit too much, which my husband only supports. She loves coming over to cook for us or inviting us to her house for dinner. When our child was born, her wanting to be around intensely increased. I appreciated her help, but being at our house almost 24/7 got on my nerves, as I felt like she was invading our privacy. I established boundaries with her and told her she could only come over when invited. I didn't invite her over for a few weeks, which upset her. I also declined the numerous invites to her house. She was involved in a serious accident that shattered her leg between Thanksgiving and Christmas. She needed constant care while she recovered, which none of my sisters could provide due to their jobs. After our daughter was born, I became a stay-at-home mom and was expected to care for my mother. I declined and received much scrutiny from both my family and my husband. Finally, she had no other choice but to be transferred to a rehabilitative facility. Everything was fine until reports circulated about the facility 2 weeks ago, which resulted in 2 caregivers and the director being arrested. My husband freaked out and said we needed to get her out of there. However, the incident that occurred didn't involve my mother's side. It was the memory care unit. My mom has been treated just fine. My husband got my sisters involved, which of course supported him. I was very adamant that she could not come to our house. The next thing I knew, our guest bedroom and bath had been cleaned up. I again told my husband I was not going to allow this. Lo and behold, he arrives home with my mother. I was absolutely angry. He said it would be fine as my sisters made a schedule to come over and care for her between their work schedules. So great. Now I have my sisters invading my privacy too. I told my husband he married me, not me and my mom. I told him to stop bending over backward for her and trying to please her. I expressed how I felt, that he was trying to compete with me, and my mom right now is gloating about that. All he could say was, "This is your mother, and you have obviously shown her that you don't care." My sisters are livid with me and said that I'm a crappy daughter and could learn how to treat a parent from my husband. My boundaries have been completely violated. Not the idiot. What is wrong with your husband? It's one thing for him to talk to her and send her cards, but moving her into your house against your express wishes is bananas. What is wrong with these people? You're absolutely right to feel like your boundaries have been completely violated. Hubby needs some therapy to talk about his trauma. I totally understand that it makes his inner child happy that he finally found a mom, but this kind of compensation for the lack he experienced is only helpful and healthy to a certain degree. And at this point, he damages you and your relationship for the sake of being a good son to your mother. He's absolutely the idiot for bringing your mother into your house without your permission. Your sisters are also idiots for judging your daughterhood, while they can hide behind their jobs and other excuses while mom isn't at their house. But your telling him apparently isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. All I can suggest is that you focus on caring for your child and absolutely do no more than 25% of the care for your mother, with sisters and hubby doing the rest. Can you please explain why OP has to do no more than 25% of the caring, when in fact she should be doing 0% of the caring? She doesn't want her mother there. She told her husband not to bring her there. He went against her wishes and did just that. OP, sit him down and tell him you will not have your privacy invaded. And if she's not out in 7 days, you'll be taking the baby and going to a friend's house. My dad is a huge idiot. My mom comes off as very sweet, but she chooses to stay with him. She's not financially dependent or afraid of him. It took me a while to see it, but I guess she isn't that great either, because if she was, she sure as heck wouldn't be with him. My father promised us all a family vacation in February. My siblings and I decided on Turks and Caicos and have been planning it ever since. Needless to say, my kids were excited. Note, I don't truly think my dad gets what a big deal this is, as he's always on vacation. My dad does not like my wife, never has, and over Christmas, he became irate over what we got my mom for Christmas and how mother-in-law got a lot more from us. He even uninvited us from the trip and berated us. Our kids are devastated, but I don't think he even considers them. My mom came over today to drop off a gift that arrived late for our son. The kids were very upset about the trip and didn't want to see her. She claimed she felt bad and said she'd talk to him for the kids. My daughter told my son that maybe it would work because my mom is nice even if my dad isn't. My wife was annoyed by this and corrected our daughter. She said my mom isn't nice. She's weak and selfish, and nice people don't stay married to not nice people. And if you really want to be nice, you have to put the right thing before what makes you happy. My mom was clearly shocked. She turned to me and asked if I would treat her like that. I shrugged and said she was right. My mom told me to screw off and left. We're still uninvited from the trip and banned from their house, and my dad sent us a nasty message and said we'll never get anything from him again. Am I the idiot for not defending my mom? OP, please explain how accepting a free vacation from a huge idiot makes you any different than the woman who stays with said idiot. You are the idiot, as is your wife, and huge hypocrites as well. How incredibly ironic that your wife would say this, and you'd support her. So it's weak and selfish for your mother to remain married to a not nice person, but it's perfectly fine for you and your family to go on vacation with that same not nice person. I disagree. It's everyone's the idiot here. The wife got more presents for her mother than her mother-in-law. That seems pretty normal to me. She did her job by getting a present. It's petty as heck to be upset you didn't get the same treatment as someone's mother. Also, where was the son in all of this? Why are they mad at the wife for treating her mom, but not at the husband for not gifting his own mother more presents? How is this all on the wife? And who uses Christmas presents as a barometer for whether or not to bring them on a family vacation? They're throwing shade at his mom for staying with his dad, but have no issues with paid vacays. Super hypocritical. It's also suspicious that OP used to think his mom was sweet. She appears sweet, and the only thing wrong she does is stay married to his dad. Seems to me as though the wife is emotionally manipulative of OP and has convinced him that his own mother's not the sweet woman he grew up with, but is this monster for staying married to the idiot, who's probably only an idiot because he calls the wife out on her BS. OP hasn't said what makes the dad an idiot. It seems like the wife is the biggest idiot, and OP's being alienated from his family because of her. You are the idiot, OP. I don't like your wife either. My fiance and I have been together for about 3 years, and we're scheduled to get married sometime in 2025. So we have the time to save up for a wedding. He has 2 kids, a son, kindergartner, and a daughter, pre-tween. Recently, he was talking about how cool it would be to have his kids in the wedding party because he has full intentions of having his son be one of his groomsmen. I hadn't even considered having his daughter be a part of my wedding party. It's not like I don't like her. She's an incredibly sweet and caring girl, and I truly love her to bits, but I have a lot of friends, and it was already hard to narrow down who I wanted to be in this wedding party with me, and I don't really want to have to kick out another friend for his daughter. When I told him this, he got really upset, saying it's not fair that his son gets to be in the wedding party and his daughter doesn't. But I don't truly see that as my problem because he's the one including his son in the wedding party. So I told him his daughter could be the flower girl, as I do want her included, but he said she'll be too old for that by then, which I don't get because she'd only be a tween. Maybe that's too old, I'm not sure. Now he's kind of giving me the cold shoulder and talking about how I don't care about his kids, which is truly not the case. I just don't want her to be a bridesmaid. I want it to be people I've been friends with my entire life. Does that make me an idiot? You are marrying someone who has children. They will be a part of his life forever. Why are you working so hard not to include them in his day? Because it's not all about the bride. You are the idiot if you don't figure out how to include his daughter. And if you can't, find someone without kids. I'm with you. Even if they each already had 10 people on each side standing up for them, I'd find a way to make it 11. If they had 16, I'd find a way to make it 17. No place is a good place to exclude her. But the wedding? Tisk tisk. Besides, I've never been to a wedding where I counted the number of people in the wedding party. Heck, my friend's younger sister was her flower girl, and she was pregnant and in her 20s. She was dressed like a bridesmaid, went to all the functions, and stood with us during the ceremony. I'd totally be the flower girl for someone, and I'll be 35 soon. People think way too hard about these things and how they should be. She's not going to be the same as all your friends. Your fiance doesn't expect her to go to the bachelorette or plan a shower or something. Just wear a cute dress, walk down the aisle with her brother, hold a bouquet, and feel special getting her hair and makeup done. Don't think of it as replacing someone, basically just a match for her brother. You could also suggest she be a groomswoman, stand on dad's side. I still highly suggest having her get her hair and makeup done with you, though. That sounds so special for a tween-age girl, whether she's a bridesmaid, groomswoman, or not. I, 34 female, have 3 kids, a young male, a male preschooler, and a female toddler. We live in a 3-bed, 2.5-bath condo, and we have my sons in one room and my daughter in another. We also have a loft area with 2.5 walls. One side has a wall maybe 3.5 or 4 feet tall, and another side is open. I have a half-sister, tween, that needed a place to stay. She was in an emergency foster home, and either my husband and I had to take her in, or she had to go to a foster home. We've never met her. I didn't even know she existed, but I didn't want her to end up in foster care, so we took her in. My husband wanted her to share a room with our daughter, but I thought living with strangers was hard enough on her, and she'll need her own space. We ended up moving our daughter into our son's room, but that didn't work out well. Our daughter can't sleep without a sound machine and a nightlight, and the boys can't sleep with them. They also have different bedtimes. Putting the boys to bed always woke her up. My husband wanted to put her back in her old room, but I didn't think that would be a good situation for either of the girls. I ended up moving her bed into the loft, and her clothes and changing table are in my room. The half wall is too high for her to climb. Her toys were already there, and we can put a divider or a curtain there if this becomes a long-term thing. My husband came home and saw this and was furious that I moved our daughter into the loft instead of letting her share a room with my half-sister. This was around 3 weeks ago. My daughter is fine in the loft. I painted it for her, got some princess wall decals, and organized the toys to leave more room for her bed and everything else I brought from her room. To say my sister isn't adjusting well is an understatement. She's tried to run away twice, and she had a breakdown and destroyed everything in her room last week. My husband has mentioned calling the social worker and sending her to a foster home since she got here. However, the past few days have been better. I haven't had to pick her up early from school this week. She's leaving her room for meals, and she's starting to talk to me. My husband still thinks that this isn't working out. He refuses to let our daughter stay in the loft and says my sister shouldn't be around the kids. I told him if he sends her to a foster home after she's just starting to feel comfortable here, the kids and I are leaving. We've been arguing again because he wants to send her to a home, and he actually said part of the reason is that he wants to get our daughter back into her room. He got his family calling me a bad mom for prioritizing some random girl over my kids. Am I the idiot for putting my daughter in the loft to make room for my sister and not sending her to a foster home? You are the idiot. This affects your whole family, and it sounds like you made the decision lightly and without talking to your husband about it. Her presence and behavior will affect your kids. She's essentially a stranger to everyone, and you have small children. That makes me super uncomfortable. She sounds like she needs way more emotional and behavioral support than the typical. Here is a very short list of situations where you can threaten to take your kids and not be the idiot. This isn't one. You're making unilateral decisions that affect him and your children, and you don't get to do that. His concerns are valid. If she's destroying her belongings, trying to run away, and having breakdowns, she needs intensive therapy, and I worry about the safety of a toddler around her. Why is it the half-sister in the loft room? It would be safer for a preteen than a literal toddler. Generally, CPS requires foster kids to have a room with a door lock that the child, can control. But a toddler should never be in a loft unsupervised, since, quote, her toys were already there. It sounds like she may have had unsupervised loft time before this incident too. So instead, the toddler should be in the parents' room while they search for a new place to live. OP, your intentions are sweet, but your priorities should lie with your husband and your kids. My fiance and her son recently moved in with me. My kids are here every other week, and I told them their routine wouldn't change. The room I gave to my soon-to-be stepson used to be the guest room, and nothing about my kids' room changed at all. My kids have been adjusting pretty well to new people, and I was happy with how things have been going. Well, my fiance said that my kids have been bullying her son by talking about him in Urdu. I asked how she could possibly know if they were talking about him, and she said that they talked in front of him in a language he couldn't understand, so they must be talking about him. I think that's a stretch. She said regardless, it hurts his feelings and needs to be stopped. I said no, I couldn't tell them what language to speak. She said to tell them not to speak it when he's around, but he lives here now, so he's always around. It isn't a reasonable request and will just create animosity between the children. He needs to get used to occasionally hearing a language he doesn't know. I got used to it. She said that was my choice, but not really. You can't expect everyone to always speak your language. Edit. They learned Urdu as infants, just like they did English. It's one of their mother tongues. They speak English to him just like they do me, but sometimes they speak in Urdu in front of him when he isn't being spoken to. They also do this to me and always have. It has never bothered me. Come on, you are the idiot. It sounds like you've got two kids who speak a language that nobody else in the house does, and who are relying on that to support each other. One more that can sometimes talk to them, who's stressing out about what's going on, and you don't care what they're saying? You're neglecting everything, kinda. This is maybe an everyone's idiot here. Your fiance's being a bit dramatic, calling this bullying, assuming they're not actually talking about your son in front of him. And you're right, he can get used to hearing another language that he doesn't know, nor does she control whether they speak Urdu in a house or not. But if they only speak Urdu to each other in front of your stepson, and he's always on the outs, unable to participate, that's not fun either. It creates an us and them dynamic that I assume you don't want in your house. So you don't need to tell them stop speaking Urdu entirely, but if it's the only language they speak around him, could you have a conversation with them about that? Exactly. I don't think this is just about Urdu. It sounds like your stepson is feeling left out and upset, and that should concern you, whether or not a particular person is at fault. Blending families is tricky, but your fiance is a major idiot. Assumptions of bullying just because the step speaks a different language, forbidding them from speaking their language to each other at home.